Guys, it's 6 o'clock. Again, thanks for coming. We actually don't have much to do tonight, and since we're such an efficient group, I'm going to say that as chair, I'm going to aim for us to end at 7. So if we can all do that, I think we should aim to do so. Thank you to you guys for coming. Our main goal tonight is to hear from the two boards who have met to discuss the report as presented, and also to review the report with the minor edits that were discussed at the end of the last meeting that were then put in. So I would like to go ahead and start with just approving let's get to the agenda, and then folks, do you want, from the public, since you know that we're going to have a pretty dense and short meeting, are you interested in speaking at the beginning or the end?
I just have one question right now on the minutes.
Okay, then when it comes to that time,
I would like to speak at the beginning.
In the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and do it in the beginning then. Hi, Jill. Let's go ahead and approve the minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes for report July 12th, 2016.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? I just want to say, Amy, how much I appreciate your minutes. They are always very detailed, and obviously they take a huge amount of time.
You're welcome.
And it's very impressive, and it's helpful for the folks who aren't here.
Yeah.
I think we all appreciate it. I know members of my board read them and appreciate them.
Thanks.
Any further comments? I'll take a comment from the floor, sure.
Well, I just was curious about item number 3, and it's probably my confusion, where it says at the very last 2 lines, after the initial Vernon vote fails, then Vernon could be listed as an advisable member. Now, are you saying that they vote to get out or vote to stay in, and then if they vote to stay in, then why would they be advisable?
So, how is that represented in the meeting?
Well, I can just explain from my perspective. If the Vern vote fails, then they fail to exit VUHS. And
Oh, is that what?
that's what that means, because they're trying to have a positive vote to exit.
Yeah.
So if it fails, then they would still be in the unified discussion. In other words, they would, if that vote on August 9th fails, the townspeople are saying they don't want to exit.
Okay, so why would they be necessary like everybody else?
I think that's a discussion that would have to happen.
Okay, then I.
Yeah, so, but this is related.
related.
So we're not talking, this is about what was discussed in the meeting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we certainly will have that discussion further on. You have a question about the minutes?
Well, yeah, well, just an answer to this one. I think the actual statement made in the meeting was that they would then be added in as either an advisable or.
So do the minutes need to be clarified, or are we comfortable with how the minutes are
It
read?
says then Vernon could be listed, it doesn't say it has to be listed, so I think that's
So the
allows
word
it.
could, okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? You're abstaining, okay. So the cat was one. Okay. Hi, Frank.
Hello.
So, Frank, we're going to be very expeditious tonight. We're only going to go till 7.
Great.
So I think we should, before we dig into the review and discuss the articles, one by one, or as the four articles that were adjusted slightly, does it make sense for us to hear from the two boards so that we start from that
I don't think
place?
there's a lot.
Okay, is that? Oh, I'm so sorry, Sean. Okay. Apologies. Let's go ahead and do public comments. As you know, speak up and say where you're from.
Yep. Sean Murphy from Guilford. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. On Monday night's BUHS District 6 board meeting, there was some discussion about Act 46, and one member of this committee, i.e. the study committee, expressed the interest in having, at the end of the process, the ideal for that individual was going to be the status quo. Status quo, try to keep everything just as it is right now in terms of the WSESU, and then, you know, see where it goes from there. And I'd like to make a comment about that, if I may. I think that if nothing is done, there might be real serious financial implications to the 5 towns. As a perfect example, Guilford would lose its small schools grant, which is over $30,000. Dummerston would also lose its small schools grant, which is over $30,000. I actually asked my town clerk to cut me my sample property tax, what it's going to mean for next year. This is just a sample, so there's some tweaking to do in terms of the, but it is our tax rate and so forth. So it was kind of nice to do that, to get those numbers right front and center. Our tax rate in Guilford this year for the homestead education property tax is 1.8137. If we had the accelerated path passed, then our tax rate would have been 1.7137. As it turns out, for my personal property, that would have saved me this year $195.30. Not a great deal of money, but I'm just one property owner in the 5 towns. And if you multiply that times all the property owners, that's how you get to the $1 million. And so if you multiply that amount by 3 years, because 10 cents represents 30 cents total savings, it would have been $585.90. Would have been my savings over the 3 years. So now we're down to 2 years, and the savings would be $390.60. So I think it's important to realize before we become complacent about the idea of not doing anything, that for a number of reasons there are real financial implications for many people in the district. And it's not only people that are young and have children that send their kids to schools, it's also older people. We're the second oldest state in the union. 2015 was the lowest birth rate in the state of Vermont in many, many years. So it's probably not going to change. So I think that's something to keep in mind as people go forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, guys. Let's go ahead and hear from Guilford and then from Putney. Does that work? Is Alice, who was?
I was there, but she has something to read from,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I got feedback from a member
Yeah.
right before this meeting, and it has to do with Article 15, the Leadership Council, and the removal of the language that would put the study committee member on the Leadership Council, and talking about just having a representative from the study committee go to the Leadership Councils, and in our conversation, the concern was that if you had somebody other than the Guilford Study Committee representative going to the Guilford Leadership Council, it wouldn't really make sense and probably wouldn't be well received. You would want to have the Guilford person go. So if we can't add that language back in, that would require them to be there. Could we say that they had to attend the Leadership Committee meeting at some frequency, like once a month, once a quarter, once whatever, so that at least it required that Guilford Study Committee rep to attend the Leadership Council on some periodic basis.
So there's new language.
Okay.
Why don't we might as well jump in and talk about it now.
Yeah, I mean, this was language that Richard
That was discussed at the last
discussed at the
meeting.
last meeting.
Okay.
That's on The second paragraph on page 10.
Though it doesn't address the very specific question.
Right.
Right, but, I mean, the district board shall actively engage with district communities and individual school leadership councils. The district board shall regularly send a representative member to the individual leadership council meetings. And I think the intent there is, you know, we talked about this at the BUHS board the other night. You know, we have subcommittees of the BUHS number 6 board, where we have a BAMS committee, we have a Career Center committee, and we have teacher curriculum committee that.
For the high school.
For the whole, yeah, for the high school. So the intent there is to, you know, you'd send a representative from Guilford to the Guilford Leadership Council.
So wouldn't that representative have to be our study committee member since they're the only one on?
Well, it's not a study committee member.
You mean board member.
You mean unified board.
Sorry, study
unified-
committee. I've been saying
unified-
study committee. I mean,
Unified board
I mean
member.
the unified board member. It would
Yeah.
have to be the board member, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't say that, though.
Right, so that's what, I think we were looking for some clarification or for further detail to say, not just a representative, but send the representative from that town.
But, yeah. I mean, I understand how you want your individual towns, but if we want to get to the mindset where we're thinking these are all of our kids, we need to not just be concerned about our own town. We should be having somebody from Putney coming to Brattleboro, Dummerston going to Guilford and engaging and feeling like they're part of that school.
I wouldn't discourage them from going, but I would think if we're electing somebody to be a representative to the super board from Guilford, that we would want that elected representative to be actively engaged in our leadership council.
I thought it was a legal question.
So we went over this issue last week, or last meeting, sorry, and Nikki confirmed that voting members, the way that it is now, you're not electing a member from Guilford. You're electing someone from Guilford who is going to represent the entire district. It's not just Guilford.
Right.
So that's sort of the, you know.
But I mean, in reality, they're gonna be the only ones on that board that know Guilford needs.
Not
I
necessarily.
mean, they that know them the best of anybody on the board. If they're
Yeah,
from
initially,
Guilford.
yes.
Right.
Right, but, you know, as we become one community,
It seems
You know?
disconnected to me. And
well,
See, and I thought in the end, after that discussion, that what would most likely happen is that that's exactly what, that when you think of the board, who is going to go to Guilford, it's
Yep.
going to be most likely. And that even there was a strong pushback from council to say to not, because of exactly what Amy just said, not to include language that was that specific.
Yeah.
But that, in the end, in terms of practice, I think
Right.
the Putney person is most likely going to go to the Putney one because for the very reasons that you described. But there may be a situation at some point that we can't determine where that may not be true based upon what the makeup of that particular board.
Also, there could theoretically be up to 4 people from Putney sitting on the board, because the
sure.
at-large members could be.
Right. So I would think at least, I think the idea behind this article for me was to maintain that local piece, and I'm on board with one community, but this was the one piece that kept the local input, and so I think having that tie would mean a lot to, at least to Guilford's community, to have that direct tie in our language.
Jill?
So Beth, I hear you, I can't see you, but I hear you, because I think that was, like Richard said, I think that's what we were all thinking. And at the last meeting, there was a discussion by the legal counsel, Nikki, and the meeting before, I think too, she alluded to how that's not really legal.
Yeah.
So,
Amy just touched on that.
Well, she thought it might not be.
Right, I thought there was some ambiguity
say it
whether
wasn't
it's
legal.
really illegal or not, and so I think that's
well,
maybe
she
where
kind of
we need
stuck to that line of talk 2 times.
Well,
so.
Chris Leopold was the previous meeting, and he felt pretty strongly about that.
So I think where I went mentally then, Beth, was
Yeah.
basically what Richard is saying, that it most likely will end up being that same way. And then I went mentally as well as what Amy said is, well, even if it's not, we are supposed to be one whole thing. And then from a Brattleboro perspective, we have more than one school anyway. So, and right now, I forget how many Brattleboro is supposed to have, 2, right?
3.
3? We have 3 elementary schools plus we have the
Yes.
EES Head Start, early Head Start.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just to put, the 3 Brattleboro people couldn't even get to all of the Brattleboro leadership
I wouldn't
councils?
say all of them, but I would think one of them, you know.
Well, there'd be
Maybe
3
not.
leadership councils though, from
Right.
the way we're writing it for Brattleboro. Because each school would have their own leadership
Right.
council. So,
Yeah.
and then there's BAMS and BUHS, it's for all of us as well already.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think what you're seeing is essentially what you wanted,
Yeah.
but it isn't stated so much, so strongly as it must be that.
We know here currently that this is the intent, is that we'd like to have our rep kind of represent ourselves. If we need to have someone else, it's okay to have a visitor per se. But the intent is to, I would say for us, is to at least have 50% of the meetings or a percentage of the meetings have our own rep available. I mean, that would
I
be.
think it was more public perception was our concern,
Yeah.
is that this, having that language in there gave you that direct tie that I think the people in our community were looking for. And now we've taken that direct tie out, and that was our concern.
So I just think, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I may be misreflecting, but misremembering this, but I thought that we kept pushing Nikki, and Nikki said that you'd have to go back to Chris on that. I thought she kept saying, well, I don't know if I can. That's how.
Right, that's the legal part.
This language,
And so
this
then-
language has been reviewed.
Okay, so the answer has come back from Chris that we cannot.
That would be the recommendation, is not to do that.
Okay.
Well, I think there was even a question of whether the language we came up with was still, was appropriate.
Yeah,
They
yes,
said
it's
it
appropriate.
was. They said it
Yeah, they said it
was.
was.
I mean, I think the last sentence is the key. The district board shall regularly send a representative member to the individual leadership council meetings. I think the intent there is the Guilford rep's gonna go to the Guilford Leadership Council. That's our practice in this district. I don't think that's gonna change. And again, I've said this unified board, we're not importing 9 people from elsewhere. They're you folks. And you know the intent of what this is.
Yeah, like I said, it was more public perception than mine.
And we talked too last time about this being more of a policy decision, or of the new board,
Of the
Yes,
board,
policy.
yes.
That, you know, it would be a good thing for the unified board to address and how they envisioned it. You know, ideally, you'd almost want multiple people sort of circulating through so
Well-
that there's a spectrum.
So if there was any language that I would throw up changing is the district board shall regularly send at least 1 representative.
Yeah.
Because, for example, as Putney, I think the town of Putney would greatly benefit from having non-Putney resident rep on this board come to meetings, because that's really the only way they're going to sit in on the conversation of what's important to the people of Putney. So I actually really like the idea. I think the leadership councils are going to be pretty strong, and are going to express, no matter who is in the room, they're going to express their opinions to the larger board. But it would be nice to have residents in Putney, and I certainly would be interested in going to, if I were on this board, I would be very interested in being involved in one of those
As
schools.
a matter of fact, we asked Alice to come the other day to our meeting.
No, and I cannot, nor could my principal. So, because he didn't get directions from me. So can I just say that I think we're not going to come to a resolution. We flushed this out. Each of our boards are meeting and going to talk about all of these articles, so I don't think we need to come to an end of this discussion. We're just understanding the concerns. Jill, and then back.
Never mind.
Okay. So any other thoughts you want to share with us? Thank you. Good. Do you want to share Putney's?
But it was actually quite, well, we had 2 things. We had our meeting with the community the day after our previous meeting, and it was on the 7th of July. And then last night we met again to look at this most recent version. And we had a lot of conversation on the 7th about the forest. That was something that was a concern for some members of the community. Jump into.
Do you want to check?
What?
I don't want to get time consuming about the
Okay.
forest.
No, we can take that
Yeah.
time. And I think the other piece that came up with the Leadership Council, we talked about the language change, because that had just happened in that meeting before. And I think the way in which we read it was that we assumed that the person who would come would most likely be the Putney person. and that the kind of intent underneath this was to do that. But the board, in reviewing it again last night, was appreciative of the comment of the work that we've made, and that their input throughout the process has been taken into account, and they felt good.
And there was a motion that was...
Oh, yes, excuse me, that we approved it to move forward.
Okay, so this time, why don't we go ahead and have you talk us through those minor changes?
Okay, and some of these changes actually came from questions from Donna Russo Savage from the AOE. I think it was right after our last study committee meeting. I sent her the draft that we looked at, and then she had some questions. So on page 4, under the cost implications, there's a question where we state in the first sentence about immediate annual cost reductions in excess of $100,000. And then we used examples a little further down the page. She actually asked us, so where is the 100,000? It doesn't add up. So Frank and I looked at some of the assumptions that we had talked about earlier. The audit is a $40,000 savings. We had put savings for board members, but we had not included the treasurers from each individual town that we would have some savings, so that brought that up to $32,000. And then professional technical services representing a savings of $28,000. Just general services that we know, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but thinking, that's a conservative figure in terms of the operation of the central office. And then that last bullet is the PICUS study that we included with we think a very realistic, between a 3 to 5 year period, $1 million savings. And so that's in this appendix. So that was one change based on her input. Then on, page 6 at the top, under restricted funds, this came up as a question from one of the boards, so the last sentence, we were very specific in terms of what types of examples. So scholarship funds, endowments, capital funds, or like accounts held by a school district prior to June 2017, that would have specific conditions of use will be used in accordance with said provision. So it wasn't as specific, so we just added those 3 examples. Top of page 8, Article 9, Board of Directors terms and elections. We had talked a little bit about this at the last meeting, but then she questioned, the fact that it should state that the ballot shall be commingled, because all of it, the at-large, we know that's the case. Let's say Dummerston will have one Dummerston resident that's elected, but any of the at-large could come from anywhere else. So she just wanted us to clarify the ballot shall be commingled. So that's that sentence, the second and third line. Related to that, on page 9, right in the middle of the page, the annual budget vote shall be conducted by Australian ballot. That's nothing new. But then the last sentence, the ballot shall be commingled. Again, that needs to be specific. So that doesn't change anything in terms of what our understanding would be, but she said that you really should spell that out. And then I think the only other change was what we talked about on page 10.
Okay, do we want to go talk about each of these individually, or I don't know if we need to. They're pretty simple and we've talked about them. Is that right? Great. Okay, so I think we might even be able to end the meeting even earlier than I had originally thought. We could talk about the draft schedule for study committee individual town presentations. I'm not sure if we want to do that at this stage, but time does get booked up in the fall, so perhaps we do want to do that. Would that be a sensible use of our time for the next few minutes?
These are the meetings within each town with all of us present.
Exactly.
I think it'd be important to at least set some tentative dates.
I agree.
And then local boards can, along with input, and see how it fits in the calendar.
Okay, so I think we want to start doing that. Is it, when do we meet with the BOE, assuming?
September 20th.
I also have a question ahead of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I referred to this a couple meetings ago, and I'm not sure if I ever heard an actual response, I guess. A long time ago, when I was comparing it to Stu, I mentioned that we'd be sending it back to communities to have input before the final blessing and sending it off. Are you talking about putting together dates for a state-approved plan that can no longer be changed? This has been my lack of clarity around this all the time. When does it stop being able to be having any input and having us be able to change anything, that the state has said this is it and that's what's going to be voted on?
Well, we're pretty much closing in on it right here.
So there is no more opportunity for the town people to actually come up with any concerns and have a change. When we're presenting things, we're presenting it as this is it.
Well, this is what the vote is. This is what you're considering. This is what you give an up or down vote to. This is explaining the process of
This is
voting.
it, there's no changes. We can't
Yeah.
go to a community forum and have them say, oh, I really feel strongly that it should be 3, 4, and 5 years instead of
No,
2, 3, and 4.
that's
There's
not
no
what we're-
changes.
These are presentations from this committee. So far, the idea is that this would be the presentation from this committee to explain to groups of people what the report is and what the process is.
And what they're voting on.
So I have a follow-up question that I'd like to hear from each town. If they feel like their towns have had adequate time to input and say anything they wanted to. From each town, so I guess I'm looking down towards Guilford first.
Yeah, so Guilford has had 2 public forums on this that were very poorly attended. So I think the opportunity, and I don't think that we've changed anything dramatically since our last one. So I would like to have another one, but I don't know that it would yield any change.
Okay. Dummerston?
We've had, I don't know, we had the one here recently that was pretty well attended, and then we've had other discussions, like, I don't know, in the very early stages, and we've had a lot of talk at school board meetings. So,
And you have another one coming up.
and we have another forum coming up in August.
Before the 25th.
Right. So,
And Vernon isn't here to say
Nope.
anything.
Putney's, we've had 2.
2, and there have been,
One was more attended than the other one. And they were different folks between them, but they're, very small. The last one was 2 people, so it was tight. But I don't expect us to have, if we were to do an additional one, my suspicion is that the numbers would be about the same.
So I guess my concern, and maybe Mark and Kim would have other concerns, and I haven't talked about this with you guys, but when we last talked about it with the Brattleboro town reps, I believe what I said was that we would be getting back to them with more information before it would actually be finalized. That's what I felt like I was saying. Did I not say that out loud and make that clear? Or
I honestly don't remember.
did you feel like we were gonna come back to people one more time? Mark, Kim?
I thought we were gonna come back one more time, but I think that our, the ability to have a meeting prior to the final is
Right, we can't have a school board meeting, but we could have a town forum. if they-
Well, I think we were gonna go back to them presenting basically the final draft.
Right.
I mean, because we do have to say at some point, we can't take any more suggestions. Otherwise, we're gonna be going on for months and months and months with everybody.
I agree with that, but I also, I think what I represented was we'd come back one more time for any last comments, but it was still very much in flux. I think the last time we talked to Brattleboro was April, March.
So,
I mean, besides our school board conversations and such, I mean, but there's really been no one at any of our meetings talking about.
Well, those were the meetings I had thought that we were presenting it to the public were at the school board meetings, because the school board meetings are open to the public. Those interested in what is happening, I had assumed would show up.
I guess I just fear pushing so that we don't have a chance to follow through with that, and then it feels like it's something that's a fait complete, just slamming down.
Why can't you just schedule something now?
That's what I'm thinking we might have to do. So our deadline would be before the August
meeting.
25th. meeting.
Yeah, and you're, yeah.
Yeah, the school board meeting.
Well, it wouldn't be a school board meeting because we aren't able to do that. Because nobody's in town. We went through everybody's schedule. Nobody was here at the same time, but it can be a meeting with us, three.
So, I'm not gonna recognize you right now. I'll come in.
It pertains to this discussion.
All right, so I guess we'll discuss.
You'll have, yeah.
I'm sorry, didn't you say you'll do what?
We'll discuss and try to have something, because I really feel like that's what I said to the Brattleboro voters the last time we talked about that around town meeting, was that when before it came back for a final, being sent off to the State Board of Education, the final thing that they were gonna vote on, they could have one more chance for saying anything. And maybe nobody shows up.
I mean,
But I
I look
said
at
that.
that as a chance for comment, but, you know, I think these articles have been really well vetted, that you're gonna explain what the rationale is for these things. And so I can't imagine a group saying, well, then you gotta change this.
I don't know that I imagined it either. It's more that I feel like I said I was going to do something and I'm not happy about following back on it.
So I suggest you guys talk about this not in this setting.
That's what I just said we would do.
Yeah, okay. All right, so can we review some potential dates?
Well, we all, at one point, had this chart. And so, you know, obviously, we know the Vernon vote's coming August 9th. The state board is going to review the study committee proposal September 20th. We had this tentative from September 21st through October 19th as public hearings, information meetings.
Say that again, Ron. September what?
With the
Public
20
hearings and information meetings starting September 21st through October 19th.
So
That's part.
we've already tentatively reserved those dates in terms of,
Well, I don't know, we
We're
just
throwing them
plugged in
out.
dates that these are potentials.
do we need, go ahead, you're gonna keep talking?
Well, it's a little out of sequence, but by October 4th, the school boards would approve the final warnings. Again, public hearing November 2nd, and the vote is November 8th. So those were just tentative, kind of, here's a bunch of dates that you could utilize.
We have a 4-week window, essentially.
Yeah, we
to
wanna do it in
schedule as much
October,
as stuff.
basically.
Yeah.
Guilford could do October 3rd.
Okay?
So is the intent to do one in each town?
That's a Monday.
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so,
Monday, October 3rd would be one of Guilford's regular meetings that we could do that, and then we could, at the end of that meeting, vote, the board could vote, if that needed to be done by October 4th, I think I heard you say.
vote on the warning.
Yeah. Right, so we can do that at the same time.
I thought we were just talking about public information.
Yeah, let's, yeah.
Sorry, I
She
was
digressing on the agenda, but that, I understand the logic. So how about the,
So October 3rd is going to be the Guilford Forum?
yeah, the following, what's the, can I see what?
It's the 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, the 11th would be Dummerston's.
October 11th?
Yeah.
September 21st would be Brattleboro.
September 21st? When's the October one?
October 11th, there's already a WSESU meeting that night
Oh, there is?
in Dummerston. I have it in my book.
Oh, yeah.
October 11th, WSESU in Dummerston.
Can we
We should
actually,
change that.
Yeah.
is September 21st, shall we do Brattleboro, or is that too early?
No,
Okay.
that's our normal meeting. That's
Let's
fine.
do that.
Okay, so Brad.
Okay, so that won't be, but that wouldn't be the Brattleboro meeting, this is the study committee.
That's right, but it's already kind of in people's, our board's
Yeah.
agenda, so it's easily
Okay,
What time is that at?
6 to 8, what I was just putting in my calendar. I
okay,
guess.
so Guilford on October 3rd.
Yeah.
We could do one in Putney between the 21st and October 3rd, if that is helpful. It's, the
Like
28th?
the 22nd, September 22nd.
Sure, that's a, sorry.
Thursday.
It's Thursday.
We could do that?
2 in a row?
Too much?
You'd be good at it. Oh, sorry.
Is it expected that we're all gonna be in all the meetings though?
I think we would need a quorum,
So 9/22 is.
so that would be,
I can't make the October 3rd, but that's one person's issue.
right.
So we're doing 9/22 or not?
I think that worked.
Is that okay, folks?
And
Okay.
Who's that again?
That's in Putney.
A quorum is how many people?
5.
5 out of this group?
But
voting
quorum
members.
is voting members.
Voting members.
So people should speak up if they know.
Well, I don't know schedules yet.
What's good.
So on October 3rd is Guilford. And we don't know whether we will have one in Vernon. Dummerston?
Are we saying 6 to 8 for all these, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I suppose we could do the 4th.
October 4th?
Is that, if
Oh, I
we're
thought
having
you
an
were the
SU
11th.
meeting?
No, we can't, isn't
But
it?
why did I have the 11th?
I had
Because that's the WSESU meeting.
Oh,
But you said you
Move
could move the SU
we can
meeting.
move that.
that? Okay, so we'll do 10, 11 then?
Yeah.
So I won't be able to make that one either, to be
The
clear.
11th.
October 11th.
So you can't make 2 of them.
Apple 3rd.
Sorry, you said the 3rd and the 11th, Jill?
Can't make the 11th either.
Okay. I think that's everybody.
That's all 4 towns.
Yep.
And Vernon will schedule if we have to after the.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll figure it out.
We need to have one-
On October
we need
11th.
to have one for the high school?
Yes, October 11th is Dummerston.
No,
What I
because
think
each
so,
of the
no.
communities goes into
They're not
the.
doing the 4th.
They're doing the 4th. They're gonna move the SU meeting.
The SU meetings moved, what day was the sound, was that?
So we have nothing on the week of the 26th.
So I can take that off then.
That's empty. I'm just looking at
So-
Do you want to put something?
it. Well, I think Vernon, if Vernon wants to come in.
Yeah.
Just so you want
So
to
Vernon,
tentatively.
Vernon would have what month are you in?
September and
September.
So they have a
October
meeting on the week of the 26th?
Yeah, they would have a meeting on the 26th.
of September?
Should we put it in there as a tentative?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to say that perhaps we want to do a forum in Vernon anyway. Because they would still be coming in, even if they, well, for 2 reasons. One, if they decide to say they definitely want out of the union, they would still be having the idea of school choice, and we would hope that they would continue with the percentage that they're sending now, so it would behoove them to know what that means. And what the rest of us are doing, just, I mean, no, maybe nobody comes, but we could still go.
And we could drive over to the Blueberry House in Guilford and have ice cream.
Still be open in September. You're right, it won't be open by then.
Oh, bummer. Maybe they just come stay open special for us.
so I think that's something that can be talked about at the 25th. And also, I'd like to schedule a meeting in possibly first week in September for a study committee meeting in case there's, let's see, when does it actually go to the board?
The 20th.
Just in case there's more lingering discussion after the 25th. And I think we should prep for the meeting with the state board. and potentially at the same time prep for how we're going to organize the presentations. So is there a suggested September?
September 8th?
Does that work for everyone?
September 28th.
Along with the Putney
Not
meeting?
28, 8.
We do Putney meeting.
Putney meeting, it's,
5.
yep,
So what time is that Act 46 one?
it's 6.
6, okay.
All of these are at 6.
Okay.
And then at 6 o'clock, we'll do.
And it's gonna be Putney then?
46.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, shall I go over these dates, or does everyone have them?
Yeah, well, once again,
All right.
review the bidding. Yes.
April 25th.
There you go.
April
Oh, August, April, May, June. August 25th.
26th.
25th.
25th, here in Brattleboro, I
I
believe.
didn't know
Right
about that
here.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be
Yep,
here.
here.
Oh, that's the next one, so it's on there.
September 8th in Putney, September 21st in Brattleboro, September 22nd in Putney, September 25th potentially in Vernon.
26.
26, oh, that's good, okay.
25th is Sunday.
That's,
Yep.
we're just holding that date for that,
Yeah.
for that evening. October 3rd, Guilford, October 11th, Dummerston.
Okay.
All right, guys?
And then the state thing is on,
The 20th, September 20th.
When?
September 20th.
So it's possible that the state could come back with all sorts of funny things and,
I don't believe so, because they're guided us on this last version, so we accommodated everything that they suggested.
and do we need to have it in our
But
calendars
Ian
to
has-
go up there?
The what?
Yeah. Everyone
what
should
time
put
of day?
September 20th. It's not clear, they determine the day when they set the time when they set the agenda.
Do we
Yeah.
need an official motion to send it to the, up to the state? Or are we planning on doing that at our next?
That's what we'll do on August 25th, right?
Yeah.
No.
Okay?
we don't know what time on it.
We won't know.
And do we need
And we
to have a
need-
quorum to go up there, or it would just be nice to have a few of us to go up?
I think they would say a few.
Just so we
I
know.
can ask her.
Just, because we don't.
I think it's
have it in our
unusual
calendar.
the whole study committee go to the state board.
Yeah, a couple of the ones I've seen on BCTV, there's been like just one person and the superintendent.
That's a couple, yeah.
No, not just, but
Yeah.
I've watched a few of them on BCTV.
So do we want to discuss who wants to go up to that?
Draw a straw go.
I mean,
Couldn't anybody who wanted to go,
I
go?
think anyone who should, I will definitely be going.
There's two.
There you go.
When will we know the time? How close will that come?
I think it's about a week and a half before. Okay. Any further, I'm going to open it up. Anything else before I open it up once again for public comment, since we have a little bit of time?
I had a
Jill?
question. Dummerston still, I was wondering where the Dummerston personnel were at on what they reviewed. You said you had not had a chance before to review the various options, but you were hoping to do that. Have you done that?
No, we had our forum with the community, we focused on, the forums are, we broke it up into two sections, basically. So the first one that we had over in West Dummerston was about Act 46 and how we got to where we are now, and then what next steps will be going on. We didn't get into any of the educational programming, potential benefits, or actually review the Articles of Agreement. That's going to be saved for our August 10th meeting. I think it's the 10th. So, and the August 10th forum, 9th, sorry, it's August 10th, sorry. August 10th forum is going to be at the school, Dummerston School, and we'll go over the educational part of it and then review the actual articles themselves. And so, we passed out the options, and then we gave, I took the study committee frequently asked questions and tailored it to Dummerston, actually updated it really. It could be applicable to any of us, so I just updated it, eliminated all the references to accelerated merger because it wasn't valid anymore. But, So people have that, and, yeah.
Great, thank you.
And is there anything from Vernon since the last meeting, since they're not here?
Okay. You guys spoke at the beginning, but go ahead and you have another opportunity.
Well, I was just following
What?
up from Jill's comment about what she, promised the community, and Amy kind of answered what I was going to say, is the fact that we had not looked at the articles with the community. We did have what I thought was a good forum. It was a lot of different people this time in Dummerston, and to hear their thoughts as to what they wanted. So as we are going to, on the 10th, go over the agreements, it'll be the first time the community's really taken a look at it.
Sean Murphy, Guilford again. When you're going through the whole timeline, another thing that probably should be mentioned, that the petitions have to be in no less than 40, and, no more than 40, no less than 30 days. So that looks like probably the petitions would have to be at the town clerk's by the end of September, which is, it happens quicker than you think, so. And then, so actually, a lot of the meetings, there could be people that are running in attendance that would have comments, so it would almost be like, discussion in terms of expectations and so forth.
That's a great idea.
And I think we were talking maybe at the beginning, maybe before the meeting, I thought it was at the beginning meeting, the ballot language, which would also be the petitions.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get those for August, end of
25th.
August.
And that must be pretty well done, because it was developed prior to everything going down in April, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
And
the
town-
petitions will be available at the town clerk's at some time in the not too distant future, I would think.
Yeah, and they've all met with Ron and
Yeah.
Barb and myself, and
Right.
we've done this before, so. they'll make them Inez?
Ines McGillian from Dummerston. I just have a comment and an objection, I guess, under Article 9. This new language that the ballots shall be commingled is fairly significant, and my objection to it is also like my objection to at-large voting. When the ballots are commingled, it means that instead of each town reporting the election results from that town, it means that we will never know where the ballots initially came from. And that means that, say, one of you ran in your small town, and you may have been voted for by an overwhelming majority in your small town, but still lose your position because Brattleboro, which has a greater number of registered voters, may have voted for your opponent. And so this will make it impossible for small towns to know what the election results are in their town. And this is a problem that just stems from at-large voting in general. In at-large voting, the representatives from your town are voted on by the entire electorate. And in this new configuration, where we have one fewer small town, if Vernon is not included, it means that the Brattleboro vote will be determinative, most likely, of who is elected from your small town. Now, one of the other problems with at-large voting, and I know that this was a compromise configuration of the board to quell all of our concerns about the lack of representation and voting power on this board for small towns. At-large voting is technically even worse than direct representative elections to this board, because the small town voice is actually diluted because the entire electorate from the entire district is voting on your representative. And in civil rights contexts, at-large voting is routinely shot down by courts because it tends to dilute the minority voice. And so, and this is going to be even more of a problem with a commingled ballot, because the effect of at-large voting will be masked, because it will become impossible to tell whether the will and desire of the electorate of each small town is actually being reflected in who represents that town on this unified board. So this is a change that I don't believe that ballots have to be commingled. I don't know who told you that this language should be in there, but I think it's something that each town should actually discuss with their individual boards, perhaps their individual attorneys, because commingling the ballots will make the at-large voting even more of an obscure process where small towns won't know who elected their resident to the unified board.
If I could just respond, we got that direction from Donna Russo-Savage of the Agency of Education, and then I confirmed it with Chris Leopold. He said, yeah, it should be stated that way. Town clerks would have the individual numbers. I don't know, I mean, they would
That's not
share
true
it.
with commingled ballots.
Well,
And
they would have the Demerson votes?
No,
They would have the-
this is the problem with commingling. And it's a big problem.
No, they would have, they are still at the polling place. The Board of Civil Authority would still regulate the registered voter, and the data would be collected. Leland and Gray Union and several other, most union high schools in the state for many, many years have had the commingled vote format. And the process is the town clerk, with the oversight of the Board of Civil Authority, records the votes. They typically are sent to the clerk of the union board. It is known which town voted yes, which town voted no. I'm describing the budget vote. But the requirement of the determination of whether or not the budget passes or fails is not on the individual town. And even, as you say, even if there was 3 towns that voted no, if there was a majority that voted yes in total, then the budget passes. So it certainly is known how individual towns are vote, and it certainly is discussed at the individual town level and by the union board, as far as, if there seems to be a sentiment in a town where there's not support for a budget, there's an outreach that's taken to address that. So it's
That's not, I realize that's not my understanding of what commingled balloting is. I may be incorrect, but I urge all 3 small towns to consult with council and find out whether this is in the small town's best interest, because that's not my understanding of what a commingled ballot is.
So I'm sharing my experience of 20 years of being in the middle of that process between town treasurers, town clerks, and the elected clerk of the union board. So it's no mystery.
But Frank, if that were true, then there would be no need. The commingled ballot language would be superfluous and not necessary, so why not take it out?
It is the
Because
law.
if
It is the law that
it's,
you feel.
that's not my understanding, so I urge.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Thank you folks for speaking. I'm sure you'll talk about this in Dummerston. This concern. All right. Is there anything else, or can we encourage a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming.